Are you looking for a new gym to train at? Well, if so, I've compiled a list of some things to look out for if you're looking for a new gym. Whether you're brand new to martial arts or you've been in the game a while and you're looking for a new gym for whatever reason, these are some things that I think you should look out for. Guys, this is Sean with PDMA, and today I've put together a list of some things I think you should look out for if you're looking for a new place to train. Now, this list isn't just what I think you should look out for. This list was actually generated by some of my social media followers. I kind of put out a survey, see what people are looking out for. And the great thing about that is we got opinions from all across the spectrum. We got people that have been in the sport for 20 plus years. I got people that literally just started last year, men, women, all different types of cultures, different people. And I think we need to do that when we're looking at some of these things we should look out for, because what might occur to me to look out for might not be the same kind of thing that's going to bother you in a gym. So this list is a compilation of a ton of different people's opinions. And I tried to take the things that kind of came up over and over again. And there are a few in here that have some nuance to them, but we are going to go over that. And hopefully we can help you make the right decision when you're looking for a new gym to train at. So the first thing we're going to talk about is something that you should be on the lookout for immediately when you walk into a gym, and that's cleanliness. I'm talking everything from, is there a bunch of dust on the floor? Are people walking off the mat without their shoes on? Are people in the bathroom without their shoes on? God, I hope not. Look at the cleanliness of the bathrooms. Just take a quick glance at any gym, and you can usually get kind of an idea of if this gym is clean or not. I've unfortunately been to gyms where it is not the case, where you walk in and it smells like open mat, and open mat was 3 days ago. And guys, just don't tolerate this. Don't put up with this, because there can be some serious health consequences with this. Most of us that have been in the game for long enough have seen or maybe dealt with gross things like skin infections and just overall just dirty. We don't want any part of that. So when you walk into that gym for a first time, my advice would be take that cursory glance. See what you see, smell what you smell. Guys, if it smells like mat cleaner and there's a class going on, I mean, that's usually a pretty good indicator. Now, obviously, if there's a class going on, it might smell like sweaty people, because there's a lot of sweaty people. But take a look. Is there a place for people to leave their shoes, where they can wash their feet maybe before they walk onto the mat? Little things like that. Is there a mop bucket with clean mop water in it? I've walked into gyms where, okay, there's a mop bucket and stuff, but it's dirty mop water. And I'm like, dude, are we reusing this mop water? Look, I understand business owners have expenses, but I feel like mop water is a pretty reasonable thing that we can change out. So take a look at that and look at the hygiene standards. Yeah, and take a look. A lot of gyms have like hygiene posters everywhere. And if you're new to this and you walk in and you're like, oh my God, why are there so many signs that say don't wear my shoes on the mat? Because that's actually a good sign. I know it might seem like they're maybe being over the top, but trust me, you want that, as opposed to the opposite, where they just don't care about cleanliness. Now, this next one might sound a little weird, but stick with me. We're going to take a look at the women in the gym, and not in a weird way. No, we're going to notice, first of all, are there women in this gym? Now, this one does have a little bit of nuance on it, because if you're training in a rural area where jiu-jitsu is just not that popular in general, then I wouldn't expect a high percentage of women. But if you're training in a populated area like a city or something like that, and you walk into maybe not just one class, but you go to a couple classes, you're trying out a new gym, and there's no women there, that's not automatically a red flag. Of course, this reality is there are less women in this sport. But I'm finding more and more that if there are no women at a particular gym, there might be a reason for that. And I'm fortunate that a lot of my friends in this sport are women, and this actually was a common thing that came up for them. If they walk in and there's no women, and number one, they don't want to train there because they don't have women to train with. And then two, they're kind of picking up on the signals other women are sending. If other women don't want to go there, there might be a reason, and you don't want to take that risk. And this applies not just to women, but guys, if you walk into a gym and there are no women there, and you kind of get this vibe, it's probably not a place we want to hang out at anyway. And on that same topic, I don't want to go too into this one, because you can just go down a rabbit hole in McDojo life. I recommend you do that for this. But let's just say pay attention to inappropriate relationships on the mat. Now, I train and my wife trains, and we train at the same gym. And we never really train together. But I have friends that are couples that do train together. And that's not what I'm talking about here. I think everybody kind of knows what I'm talking about here. If there's an inappropriate relationship going on, especially between an instructor and a student, and you've caught wind of that, do your due diligence. There's nothing, inherently wrong with an instructor and a student dating, especially if they have a pre-existing relationship. But I would just say, look into it. Now, this next one is actually very important to me. And I was actually happy to see that it was pretty important to a lot of my social media followers too. And that's gyms that don't allow you to or discourage you strongly from cross training. Now, a lot of us know that this was actually very popular back in the day, back in like the 80s and 90s when people were training martial arts. Even, within the same type of martial arts, people would say, hey, don't go to X, Y, and Z gym, or don't go learn another martial art. And by today's standards, I just don't think we have room for that. And that was actually even a popular mentality towards the beginning of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the Southern California days, and back in Brazil. It was very like, okay, this is our team. We're going to stick with our team. Guys, if your gym is doing that in 2024, there aren't many of these where I'm just going to say, like, no, this is a definitive, like, I'm not staying. This is a definitive, I'm not staying. You need to be cross-training, especially if you are a competitor. You need to be getting different looks from different people. The sport is growing as a whole, and some instructors like to have, like, these, like, trade secrets that you can only get from our gym. Okay, I guess. I mean, if that's how you want to run your gym, that's how you can run your gym. But for me, that's going to keep me away. And I'd probably recommend looking into it. Also, because when people have that kind of mindset, it can signal some insecurity. So I train at Balance Studios in Philadelphia. Phil and Ricardo Miglioris run it. They've both been training jiu-jitsu for 30 plus years. And they encourage us all to cross-train, especially those of us that compete, because they want us to get different looks. And even though they've been training for that long, and they've had some instruction from some of the highest level people, they've trained some of the highest level people, they know that they don't have all of the answers. So they actually want us to go to other gyms and get that knowledge that we might not get at our gym. And also, they both encourage people coming from other gyms because they are still students of the game. Even after this much time in the game, they want to learn. So they actually encourage people from other gyms to come in because they might know something that they don't know, even in their 30 years of training. I mean, this sport is constantly evolving. So if your gym is not big on like this community, I'm going to learn from you, you're going to learn from us, and we're going to grow the sport together, I would stay away from that. So this next one is actually one of the reasons I'm glad I put this survey out to my social media, because this is one I actually wouldn't have thought of, but is apparently a big deal to a lot of people, and I completely understand why. And that's a gym that doesn't have somebody welcoming you at the door, or at very least, a gym that isn't providing a welcoming environment to new students. Now, like I said, this never even really crossed my mind, and I think one, because the gym that I train at, we do not have this problem. We always try to be friendly with new people walking in, and a lot of the gyms I train at also share that sentiment. I mean, it's pretty unusual for me to walk into a gym where it's not a very welcoming environment, or nobody says hello to you, or something like that. It's usually quite the opposite. But I have been to gyms where that is the case, and let me tell you something. It sucks. So especially if you're new to this sport, and it can be intimidating. I don't care if you're like some big dude who's been getting in street fights all his life. It can be intimidating walking to a room full of people that know how to fight. Maybe it's an MMA gym. There could be things like that. So if you walk in and people are either being rude to you or you just don't like the vibe, keep in mind, you're still an adult. You're still a person. You just happen to be in a place where people are practicing something that you have no experience in. But that doesn't mean they get to be rude to you. And if they think it does, then that's just not right. Now, the one caveat to this is, and this shouldn't happen if you're like a brand new person, but if this is a serious MMA gym and they have serious fighters and you come in and you say, hey, I'm looking to be a fighter. Okay, well, maybe this gym isn't gonna, oh, yes, welcome to, because to be honest, to be a fighter, sometimes you need that little more harsh environment. But for the vast majority of people out there, those of us, even those of us that compete in jiu-jitsu, I'm looking to have a good time while I'm there. I'm looking to have some friendly people. I'm looking to have people have respect for me. I'm going to have respect for your gym, and I just ask that be reciprocated. And this last one, I guarantee, is going to cause the most controversy. It's going to lead to the most comments in the discussion, and that is gyms that make everybody wear their gear. And so while I was doing my notes for this episode, this was the first one that I wrote down. And then when I put out my survey on social media, this was by far the biggest response. Stay away from gyms where everybody has to buy that gym's gear. And so I'm doing my notes and I'm writing this one down. And for all of these, I wanted to give each of them a fair shake. So I said, let me play devil's advocate on each of these. And to be honest with you, there are some good points on the other side of this one. Now, we're going to go over those points in just a minute, but I want to go over the argument to why this is a red flag. And so for one, a personal reason of mine is that for most of my life, I could not afford to go to a jiu-jitsu gym. I didn't have a lot of money growing up. This was not even like a thought that I could do something like this. And so for me, any extra added expense is just like, guys, you're already charging a gym membership. We don't need to be adding expenses on. And that's actually something I really have an issue with, is that if you have somebody come to your gym and they really want to train. Maybe they're looking to train for self-defense because they've been in a situation where they need to defend themselves before. Okay, so now they can shell out the money for a monthly membership, but it's kind of a big expense for them. Okay, now you're going to make them buy your gear from you instead of having the option to go, maybe purchase a budget rash guard or a budget gi, at least for their first year, to see if they even like doing this. So that really does irk me. And if you guys can't tell just by the way I'm talking, it really does, because I don't think we should be forcing people to spend any more money than they have to. Now, some of these gyms, to be fair, might have programs for people like that. I don't know. I've never encountered that, but if you train at a gym that maybe has some sort of program like that, let me know in the comments, because I think that might be a fair compromise here. The other reason I think a lot of people don't like this is because it really does reinforce that like jujitsu is a cult type thing. A lot of the time, these gyms that make you all wear the same uniform are the same gyms that are saying, hey, don't go cross train, or we're the best team for whatever reason. I think even if your gym isn't like that, having everybody forced to wear the same thing, it kind of like reinforces that stereotype. And then the only like decent argument I've heard of this, and it's not even really that like decent of an argument to be honest with you, is people are like, oh, well, if you join, a baseball team, everybody's going to be wearing the same baseball uniform. And you're like, yeah, okay, but like that's, maybe you have that argument for competitors, but like what if somebody's like just training as a hobby and they're like a dad who works a 9 to 5 and they have no interest in competing. They just want to come, hang out with their friends, train a little jiu-jitsu, and I don't know, maybe you tell that person go find another gym. But for me, I want that person at my gym, and I'm not going to put any more barriers than already exist in front of that person. And so I said that there were some caveats for this one, so I want to make sure I'm being 100% fair. And I do want to say that I have trained at a gym that has a uniform policy several times, and it's been some of the best training I've ever had in my entire life. And I have friends that train there, and that is Essential Jiu-Jitsu in New York. Now, if you're unfamiliar, Essential is run by JT Torres. It is a very, very well-run academy. They have great competitors. Every interaction I've ever had at their gym has been phenomenal. I've taken classes there, top-notch classes. The rolling's great. Everything's great, but they do have a uniform policy. And I think, I've never confirmed this, but I think that's because JT does come from this Atos lineage, and a lot of the Atos schools do have like a uniform kind of policy. Now, to be fair, to their credit, when I've gone in there, I've never had to rent their uniforms. I've never had to spend extra money to train there. I think when I did the gi class, I had to like wear a white gi and maybe like a black rash guard when I did the no gi class, but it was like so minimal that I really don't even remember exactly what the rules were. So I say that not to brag that I train at cool places, but I say that because there are exceptions to a lot of these. And, maybe not the first two, but everything else, if that is the only thing that you don't like about the gym, but everything else is great and wonderful, then good, go train there. I mean, nowhere is going to be perfect. And I can point out flaws with my own gym. I can point out flaws with gyms that I cross train at regularly. Nowhere is going to be perfect. But I wanted to make this list so you know some things to look out for. And if you are looking for a gym and you see 1, 2, 3 of these things, it might be a cue that, hey, there's probably other gyms in the area I can go check out. Let me go check those out. And especially if you're new to jiu-jitsu, I can't recommend enough, try out other gyms. I, as I've said, cross-train a lot. I used to travel a lot. And every time I travel, I would cross-train. I have been in so many different gyms, and there are so many great gyms out there. It's just a matter of finding them. So go try out. If the gym has a week trial, go do the week trial. Spend some time in there. Get to know the people. Check to see if any of these things kind of jump out at you. And if they don't, great. I would still recommend trying other gyms. Go do a week trial there. Maybe if they don't have a week trial, do like a day pass or something like that. Just get an idea of the culture of these gyms before you commit to one. And so now I want to hear from all of you. Have you trained at a gym where you saw some of this stuff going on and it made you just get out the door? Or what are some of your red flags? Like I said, I got most of these ideas from a survey on social media. I want to know your input. I don't have all the answers, and I think a video like this can be useful, especially to new people in our sport. So let's get them started off on the right foot. List in the comments below what your biggest red flags for gyms are. If you guys like this video and you want to see more of this style of video, go ahead and click subscribe. I've also got things like BJJ match breakdowns. We go do some technique videos. We've got the whole thing, so click subscribe to keep posted on that. Or you can check out one of these videos that's on the screen right now. I've got a playlist here where I go and break down some things that I do have a problem with in modern jiu-jitsu and some things that I think we can do to fix them. On that note, I'm going to sign off. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you next time.